If you reach inside your pocket and and take out your wallet or your purse, you probably see him more often. But the common things about these two guys, they are great leaders. We don't deny that. They have to give a lot of presentation speeches during the course of their lives. For this guy, it's about at least about the independence declarations in the 1945. And for the other guy, Barack Obama, one of the most inspiring speech that he has ever given to the world is probably the inauguration speech in 2009, if I remember correctly. I had a chance to travel to the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum in Hanoi, probably about half a year ago. And in the museum, there was a script. So it's basically a draft of the declarations. And it was amazing that you can see how many crossings and how many corrections that this man had made on the papers. Basically, every 3 words he had to replace it. So it was amazing. And I come to realize that preparing the speech was actually requiring a lot of effort, requiring a lot of thinking, requiring a lot of practices. And at that point, I thought that it's too complicated. So how can I simplify the whole process by comparing it to the cooking process, like to cook a dish. So prepare a speech is like to cook a dish. Before you do anything, you need to select a topic. It's just like you have to choose a dish to make. And then you need to brainstorm the speech material to know the content, to get all the details. And that is exactly the time you go to the supermarket, look at the recipe, collect all the meat, all the vegetables, all the spices, bring it home, make sure that you are really ready for the speech. Then the step 3, you need to write the speech. It's like you need to cook the dish. You need to put everything together, mix them up a little bit, probably throw this idea on one place, throw the other ideas into the other place. Try a couple of things. You might have to readjust the formulations slightly, so that you can feel the connections. You can feel that you can engage with the speech. Lastly, and probably not the last step, but I really strongly recommend you to do the rehearsals. It is like to have someone to taste the food for you. Yeah, I heard the word guinea pig, and that's exactly the idea of having someone to taste the food for you. Because sometimes our mind is so attached to what we are preparing, and we kind of bypass on the bad feelings, all the negative comments about the dishes. And it's exactly the same for our speech. When you look at the script that you're preparing, the change that you see, you say, it's great, I'm going to get the 10 marks for this one. But actually it's not. You need to get, the thing you want is an outsider perspective, somebody to give a very subjective comment on the script. So I will go a little bit further into each of the points here. I only touched slightly on the first one and go more into the last 3. The first one, the choosing a topic is already a topic by itself. So I only go through it very quickly. You need to know the audience. You need to know the objective of the speech. You also need to know what you are passionate about and what you are really good at. Because at those overlapping areas, you can choose a topic that not only engage the audience, but also able to deliver it in the most effective way. I am a food science. I'm studying food science and technologies. So that's the reason why I always relate everything to cooking, to food, to spices, to herbs. And that's really inspire up the inspirations a lot. And that's the reason why you see in the previous slide, I try to relate the speech preparation to a dish cooking. Now we come to the second stage, the brainstorming. At this stage, what you are looking for are ideas, ideas, and ideas. The last thing you want to do is to have the least ideas. So you want the more ideas, the better. You also need to focus on the objective of the speech. For different kind of speech, you need a different kind of ideas. You need to prepare in a different way. So for the speech that to inspire people, you need a lot of emotional details, emotional story. But in order to inform people, you need the correct information. You need the exact information. You don't want the people to reject the information and say that this guy give a speech about information and he actually give the wrong or the false information. So it's totally unacceptable. In the case that you want to make the people laugh, then the materials, the ideas that you're looking for are some funny ideas, humorous ideas. And the best way to do this is to draw a mind map like this one. So the brainstorming is all about to throw everything on the papers, write out everything, make the connection, dotting point, try to make the connections between all the ideas. And after you have spread everything on the papers, you choose the 3 best ideas. Usually a speech in the Toastmasters program is between 5 to 7 minutes. So the most numbers of ideas or the most number of things that you can present to people are about 3 ideas. So you can give it in 1 or 2 minutes. And also you need to choose the titles. The titles is like the PR of your speech to everyone. It needs to be secret enough for everyone to feel that they need to sit down and hear your speech, but it needs to be open enough for everyone to make a guess. Probably this speech is about this topic, this speech is about the other topic. One of the perfect examples is one of the titles we have here, Love to Work. So it's open enough for you to say that, well, this guy will talk about something about working, about how he loves about the work environment, but it's still secret enough for you to stay here and listen to his speech, because you don't know what is the features, what are the ideas that he has in mind that convince him to stay in work and become a chairman. After that, you need to write a speech. I strongly recommend you to write a speech, and it's absolutely necessary, even if you only want to write it in a draft form or in the full forms. Normally, for the speaker with English, i.e. the second language, the starting point is to write the whole speech in a full form. And when you progress throughout the program, progress throughout your education, you can reduce the content, you can make a draft. You also need to focus on the speech organizations. This is also one of the most important things. You need to be sure about any speech. Make sure that there are always 3 parts in a speech: introduction, the body, and the conclusions. And what they are for. The introductions is basically you tell or open a little bit about what you are going to say to the audience, to give the intro. To give the trailer, it's kind of not the kind of things. The body is to tell exactly what you want to say, and usually the 3 things. And in the conclusions, you need to wrap up everything and remind the people of what you have said, because believe me, the older the people are, the shorter their memory will be, and they can only remember your last words. When you go to the restaurant, usually the dessert will deal in your mind the most. If it's the last one, it's the last impressions. And exactly the same way here. If you want everyone to remember what you have said in the speech, make sure that you wrap it up and repeat it again at the end. About 3 things. You only need about 30 seconds. Make sure that you do that so that everyone can remember the speech, and you give the very final impressions to the audience. One of the recommendations I usually give to the people who want to prepare a full speech is that you need to use very simple sentences. Usually when we write, we use complex sentences with a lot of commas, with a lot of phrases that can connect together. It is great in writing, but in speaking, it will confuse the whole system and it will confuse yourself as well. So use a simple sentence, and the most complex one is probably the two parts. You don't need to go further than two. You need to use a diverse ranges of vocabularies. Try to use one word and then look it up in on the internet. Try to find the synonyms. Make it a little better. So about introduction, you can say something more. I introduce, or I would like to do it in the other way. I would like to start with something. So all the way to make it look similar. Remember to do the transition words. They are quite difficult to use, especially in the speaking environment. You can use it very well, but however, moreover, in additions, in the writing. But when it comes to speaking, you kind of usually forget it. So just make sure that you do it. You add it in the full speech and remember it. Lastly, you need to plan a little bit about the verbal and non-verbal effect that you want to add into your speech. You have seen Tom and Lan did a lot of non-verbal and the verbal things like they pause, they speed up a little bit, they do it a little slower, or they use a lot of hand gesture, they move all around the place. That need to be, all of the action need to be coordinated really well in order to add more effect into your speech. And lastly, come to the rehearsal. This is also absolute vital, especially for any non-native speakers, but even for the native speakers, they also have to prepare speech. They have to rehearse a lot. If you have heard any stories about the world champions of the Toastmasters, they actually rehearse their speech probably tens of times. They probably memorize every details, memorize every actions that they need to do during the speech. So just remember, do the rehearsals, rehearse it in front of the mirrors, do it alone, do it with your friends. You can even make your dog sit there and talk to it, but just imagine there is an audience there so that you can make the engagement too. Because you need someone to give some kind of emotional feedback, even if it's not verbal. Try to do it twice, or at least twice, and use the notes less. Probably the first time you can read it from the note, but try to use it less and less and less. So for the third or the fourth time, you don't have to use it anymore. And after the rehearsal, you probably have to adjust the verbal and non-verbal effect a little bit. Maybe at this particular stage, you write it and you think it's right when you say it out. It doesn't sound right at all. It's a little bit clumsy. It's a little bit hard to express, then you might have to rewrite it a little bit. Remember, you have to stick to the organization's body, the introduction, the body, the conclusions. Don't ever change it. That will guide you throughout the process. And lastly, in the Toastmasters environment, don't ever forget some of the formality that we are usually add in the speech, like dear fellow Toastmaster, hello Toastmasters, and at the end, again, dear fellow Toastmasters, I would like to say something. And that's the whole thing about preparing the speech. I'm going to wrap it up like this one. You need to choose a topic first, and then you need to do the brainstorming. Make sure that you collect all the ideas that you need. Also choose the titles. You need to prepare the speech in the way that you write it down, either in a very draft form or in the form of the full speech. And lastly, don't forget to rehearse your speech with your friends alone, but make sure you do it at least twice. And that's the end of my main presentations.